Hello and welcome back to Kimberly as we continue with Wicked. Okay, so this part is the Jasper Gates of Kiama Ko 1. Sarina said her younger sister, "Wake up! Nap time's over. We have a house guest at supper, and I need to know if we have to kill a hen. There are so few left, and what we give the traveler, we miss all winter in eggs. What do you think?" The Dowager Princess of the Arjiki's groaned. Details, she said. "Can't I train you to figure out anything for yourself?" "Very well," snapped the sister. "I shall decide, and then you can go without your morning eggs when we're one short." "Oh, 6, don't mind me," said Sarina. "It's just that I'm scartly awake." "Who is it? Some patriarch with bad breath, who plans to bore us with tales of hunting he did 50 years ago? Why do we allow it?" "It's a woman, more or less," said 6. "Now that's uncalled for," said Sarina, sitting up. "We are none of those blushing nymphs we once were, 6. From across the room she saw herself reflected on the wardrobe glass. Pale as milk pudding, her still pretty face nestled in the pudding of fat that fell according to the laws of gravity. "Just because you're the youngest, 6, and can still locate your waist, there's no need to be unkind." 6 pouted. "Well, it's just a woman, then. So chicken or no? Tell me now, so 4 can hack off its head and get plucking, or he won't eat before midnight." "We'll have fruit and cheese and bread and fish. Is there fish in the fish well, I suppose?" Yes, there was. 6 turned to go, but remembered to say, "I brought you a glass of sweet tea. It's there on your vanity." "Bless you. Now tell me, without your sarcasm, if you please, what's our guest like, really?" "Green as sin, thin and crooked, older than any of us. Dressed in black like an old mount, but not that old. I guess I'm about 30, 32. She won't give her name." "Green? How divine," said Sarina. "Divine isn't the word that comes to mind," said 6. "You don't mean green with jealousy? You mean actually green?" "Maybe it's from jealousy, I could not say. But she surely is green. Genuine grass green." "Ooh la, well, I wear white tonight so not to clash. Is she alone?" "She came with the caravan we saw down in the valley yesterday. She stopped with a little company of beasts. A wolf dog, a hive of bees, a youth, some crows, and a baby monkey." "Well, what will she do with all of them in the mountains in the winter?" "Ask her yourself." 6 wrinkled her nose. "She made me shudder." "Half-set gelatin makes you shudder. What's your dinner tonight?" 7 chimes and a half. She turned to my stomach. 6 left, having run out of expression of disgust, and Sarina had her tea in her bladder until her bladder complained. 6 had banked up the fire and drawn the curtains, but Samira pulled them back to look down the courtyard. Kiama Ko boasted corner turrets and towers built on massive circular salants, thrusting upward from the stone of the mountain itself. After the Arjiki clan had arrested the building from the Waterworks Commission, they added toothy crenellations for defense. Despite the reworkings, the plan of the house was still simple. It was built in the general shape of a U, a central hall with 2 long, narrow wings thrusting forward, a steeply pitched yard. When it rained, the water turned over the cobbles and slipped out over the carved gates of iron, oak, and jasper panels, past the sickly cluster of village houses built up against the castle's outside walls. At the hour, the courtyard was charcoal gray, cold and filthy with scraps of hay and bits of leaf flying over the wind. There was a light in the old cobbler's shed, and smoking and spinning from the chimney that badly wanted repointing, like everyone else in this decaying maze. Sarina was glad the guest hadn't shown into the house as proper. As Dowager Princess of the Arjikis, she enjoyed the privilege of welcoming a traveler into the private chambers of Kiama Ko. After bathing, she dressed in a white shift with white piping and put out the beautiful torque that had arrived, like a message from the other land, from her dear departed husband several months after the incident. Out of habit, Sarina shared a few tears, admiring herself within the flat embrace of its bejeweled segment collar. It was too dressy for this itinerant. Sarina could always drape a napkin over it, but she would still know it was there. Even before her tears had dried, she was humming, looking forward to the novelty of a guest. She peeped in on the children before going down. They were jumpy. Strangers always did that to them. Urgy and Manik, 12 and 11, were almost old enough to want to bust out of the nest of venomous doves. Urgy was soft and cried a lot, but Manik was a little batum, always had been. She let him go off to the grasslands with the clan. In the summer migration, they both might have had their throats slit. There were too many clansmen to claim leadership for themselves or their sons, so Sarina had to keep her boys near. Her daughter, Noor, long-legged and thumb-sucking at 9 years old, still needed a lap to crawl on before going to sleep, just for the meal. Sarina was inclined to forbid it, but she relented. Noor had a delicate lisp and was wanting in the wane for running in the rain. She befriended stones and candles and blades of grass that grew against all logic and the cracks of the coping stones around the windows. She sighed and rubbed against the torque and said, "There's a boy too, Mama. We play with him in the mill yard. What's he like? Is he green too?" "No, he's all right. He's a big baby, fat and strong," and Manet was throwing stones at him to see how far they would bounce off him. "He let him do it. Maybe if you're so fat it doesn't hurt." "I doubt it. What's his name?" "Liir. Isn't that a queer name?" "Sounds foreign. And his mother?" "I don't know her name, and I don't think she's his mother. He wouldn't say when we asked. Irji said he must be a bastard. Liir said he didn't care. He's nice." She moved her right thumb to her mouth, and with her left hand felt the cloth of Sarina's gown just before the torque, until she found a nipple. She ran her thumb over it lovingly as if she were a small pet. Manik made him pull down his trousers so he could be sure that his thing wasn't green. Sarina disapproved on the grounds of hospitality, if nothing else, but was compelled to ask, "And what did you see?" "Oh, well, you know." Nora turned her head to her mother's neck and then sneezed from the powder with which Sarina kept her chins from chafing. "Stupid-looking boy things. Smaller than Manik and Urgy, but not green. I was so bored I didn't look much." Neither would I. That's very rude." "I didn't make him do it. Manik did." "Well, no more of that. Now, let's have a story before sleeping. I've got to go down soon, so a short one." "What do you want to hear, my little one?" "I want to hear the story of the witch and the fox babies." With less drama than usual, Sarina rattled through the tale of how the 3 fox babies were kidnapped and caged and fed to fatness in preparation for a cheese and foxling casserole, and how the witch went to get fire from the sun to cook them. But when the witch came back to her cave, exhausted and in possession of Father Flame, the foxlings outwitted her by singing a lullaby to make her sleep. When the witch's arm fell, the flame from the sun burned the door off the cage, and out the foxlings ran. Then they howled down to the old Mother Moon to come and stand as an unmovable door in the entrance of a cave. Sarina ended with the traditional back and forth. "And there the wicked old witch stayed for a good long time." "Did she ever come out?" asked Nora, doing her line from an almost hypnagogic state. "Not yet," said Sarina, kissing and biting her daughter on the wrist, which made them both giggle and then lights out. The stairs from Sarima's private apartment ran without railings down to the castle keep, hugging the walls, and then after the corner another. She descended the first flight full of grace and self-possession, her skirts billowing, her a yoke of soft colors and precious metals, her face a careful composition of welcome. At the landing, she saw the traveler sitting on the bench in alcove looking at her. She made it down the second flight to the flagstone level, aware of the cynicism that seethed beneath her royal remembrance of Fiyero. Aware of her overbite, of her lost prettiness, of her weight, of the silliness of being of the die-on over nothing but irritation children and backbiting younger sisters. A thin pretense of authority that scarcely masked her fear of the present, future, and even the past. "How do you do?" she managed. "You are Sarina," said the woman, standing, her sallow-tight of chin thrust forward like a rotted weed. "Likely to be," she said, glad of the torque. It seemed like a shield now to protect her heart from being punctured by the chin. "Greetings to you, my friend. Yes, I am Sarina, mistress of Kiama Ko. Where do you come from, and how are you called?" "I come back from the back of the wind," said the woman, "and I have given up my name so I don't often bring out again for you." "Well, you are welcome here," said Sarina, as smoothly as you could. "We have nothing else to call you by. We will have to call you Auntie. Will you come in to dine? We'll be serving out soon." "I won't eat until we speak," said the guest. "Not under your roof in false pretenses for one night. I'd rather lie at the bottom of a lake. Sarina, I know who you are. I went to school with your husband. I've known about you for a dozen years or so." "Of course," said Sarina then, things clicking. The old treasured details of her husband's life came rushing up. "Of course Fiyero talked of you and of your sister. Nesty, right?" Nessa rose. "And of the glamorous Glinda with whom I think he was a little in love. And the playful inverted boys in Averick and solid old Bach. I wonder if that happy time of his life will always be self-contained. Always his and never mine. You are good to have come to call. I should have liked a season or two at Shits, but I didn't have the brains, I fear, nor my family the money. I've remembered you in a minute. Well, the color of your skin, there's nothing like that, is there? Or I'm too provincial." "No, it's unique," said the guest. "Before we say 10 cents of polite nonsense to each other, I have something to tell you, Samira. I think I was the cause of Fiyero's death." "Well, you're not the only one," interrupted Samira. "It's a national pastime out here, blaming oneself for the death of a prince. An opportunity for public grieving and atonement, which I securely believe people enjoy a bit." The guest twisted her fingers, as if to pry open a space for herself and Sarina's opinions. "I came to tell you how. I want to tell you. Not unless I want to hear it, which is my prerogative. This is my house, and I choose to hear what I want." "You must hear it so I can be forgiven," said the woman, turning her shoulders this way that almost as if she were a beast of burden with an invisibility yoke on her. Sarina did not like to be ambushed in her own home. Time enough to consider these implications. Then she put up to it, and not until she remembered herself that she was in charge, and thus she could be forced to be kind. "If I remember rightly," said Samira, her mind was racing with memory, "you're the one, Fiyero talked of you, of course, Elphaba, you're the one who didn't believe in the soul. I remember that much, so what's to forgive, dearie? I know you're travel weary. It's impossible to go here without travel weary, and you need a good hot meal and a few nights of sleep, and we'll chat some morning next week." Sarina linked her arms with Elphaba's. "But I'll preserve your name, if you like," said Sarina. She walked Elphaba through the tall warped oak doors into the dining hall and called, Look who's here, Auntie guessed. The sisters were standing beside their chairs, hungry and curious and impatient. 4 had the ladle on the tureen, stirring. 6 had dressed in a hostile puce. 2 and 3, the twins looked piously at their player cards. 5 was smoking and blowing concentric rings toward the platter of yellow eyelash fish they had dragged up from the underground lake. Sisters, rejoice! An old friend of Fierro's has come to share fond memories and enliven our lives. Welcome her as you do me. Perhaps an unfortunate choice of words, as the sisters all resented and despised Sarina. Why had she married someone who died so early, and condemn them not just to spinsterhood, but to deprivation and denial? Elphaba didn't speak through the entire meal, looking from her plate. She devoured the fish, though, and the cheese and the fruit. Sarina deduced from her eating habits that she had lived under a rule of silence at meals, and wasn't surprised later to hear about the Monterey. They took a glass of precious sherry to the music room, and 6 entertained them with a wobbling nocturne. The guests looked miserable, which made the sister happy. Sarina sighed. The one thing that could be said about the guest was this: she was older than Sarina. Perhaps for the short while of her stay, Elphaba could come out of that sulk and lend an ear to how trembling and trying Sarina's life was. It would be nice to chat with someone not in the family. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.